happens to our relationships when you're going through a Kundalini awakening. A lot of you who are experiencing a Kundalini awakening have already been through a spiritual awakening, and there's some of you who are experiencing a Kundalini awakening and probably don't know about it, never heard of it, and are not spiritual awakening. Wherever you are. Now, if you're going through a Kundalini awakening and it's a conscious Kundalini awakening that you're aware of, even if you're not aware of it, depending on where it is, you're going to be giving off certain signals. When your consciousness is changing, is shifting, depending on where the Kundalini is, your frequency as it changes is going to set certain things in motion around you. Apart from the fact that you're probably not going to be able to stand certain situations, people, places, you're also going to be either attracting stuff towards you that has something to do with your vibration, or you're going to be attracting it towards you because it is something that you need to work through. Whatever discomfort you had been feeling around certain relationships, whether it is your mom, dad, siblings, friends, usually those that are potentially the ones that carry in them gunpowder, literally. So the kind of force that these people have is one that is very, very toxic. And usually it will come when there is a biological, physical connection. Whether it is a mother, a father, or a sibling, a grandparent, and anybody that is in your lineage and your partners. With your Kundalini awakening, now, if you're going through a spiritual awakening, when the energy is amplified, wherever the Kundalini is, say for example, it is in the sacral, and there's lots of issues around there, that's where you will have a lot of issues around your emotions as well. You're going to have a lot of survival issues. You're going to have a lot of issues connected with your childhood. Now, this energy that you're going to give off is either going to put off certain people, or it's going to draw these other people into your life that you really could do without. But the reason why they come back and they keep coming back, and the way that they come back is not just their physical presence, because it isn't all about the physical presence, but how it makes you feel is the potential to trigger you. Rather than you now blaming the other party for how you're feeling, if you are having a spiritual awakening at the same time as wherever your Kundalini is, you will then have the consciousness to be able to point back at yourself and ask yourself, why am I engaging with this? There's no blaming in this. You're not blaming yourself. You're not blaming the other person. It's a situation that keeps coming up that is completely intertwined and laced with toxicity. There are lots of relationships like this, especially when it comes to parents, when you've had childhoods that are laced with traumatic experiences, and they may not even be traumatic per se, where you can actually see the trauma. Where it becomes really difficult and really skewed is when you don't even know that you've got trauma from another time stuck inside of you, and that it could actually come from your parents. It could come from your lineage. It could come from your ancestors. If it's with you and it's in you and it's something that you've yourself experienced, you've experienced it because it has been experienced before in your lineage. And if you feel drawn towards doing something about it, whether it's healing, transmuting it, transcending it, integrating it, assimilating it, and being aware of it, chances are that you're the one who's going to break the cycle. And chances are that you've also got a Kundalini awakening. Now, Kundalini awakening, when you haven't consciously brought up the Kundalini, or if you have consciously brought it up to a certain point, your channels will generally be clear if it is already now rising. But if it's not rising and it stays at a certain point, there is something there that is not allowing it to rise. And as long as it's there, it's going to completely amplify what that position and the organs connected to it mean. A lot of you will experience a lot of discomfort. You'll have digestive issues if it's stuck in the sacrum. You'll have issues where your sexual energy is amplified, but you don't know what to do about it. And when you've got the consciousness to deal with that, then you know that it's not something that you need to do about, but you can channel it. You can channel it into healing that part of you. You heal yourself and you use this creative potential that is there to go back and understand, why am I still being triggered? What is it in here that I've either got to go through, understand it, own it, disown it? What is this situation trying to tell me? Those of you who have gone through parenting where your mums have been overly critical, where your dads may have been absent, or vice versa, this is going to translate into issues around power, money, self-esteem, knowing your self-worth. When you've been berated or belittled every time, you're the kind of people who are going to end up in toxic relationships, in marriages, in places that you simply can't let go of. And you're carrying so much guilt in you because you can't help but feel you want to break free. Yeah. And you're constantly fighting this feeling, which is quite legitimate, that you want to be free from it, but you're feeling guilty, wanting to be free from these shackles because these are people that are meant to love and care about you. When we feel that guilt, it starts to eat at us and it starts to park itself somewhere. Similarly, there is another form of this fighting, this tug of war that we have, that is created in childhood when we did not have the tools. When we did not have the tools, our body then says, hang on a minute, we don't have to deal with this, we don't have the tools, right? But since it has to be dealt with at some point or the other, for now, we'll shelf it. We'll shelf it so that you will then deal with it when you can. Now, often these things come up as illnesses, come up as patterns, come up as things that you're trying to break free from. It'll come as something that is repetitive until you literally go through it. It could come up as a problem with your body. It could come up as a skin rash. It could come up depending on what it is. It could come up with problems with your uterus. If you're a woman who has had trauma, if you've been sexually abused, you're going to have problems around that area, around your reproductive system. If you're somebody who had an overcritical mother, this is going to show up in a series of partners that were simply all toxic. You're trying to bring that situation that made you feel it the same way you felt as the child, or as whenever it was that you felt what you did and you couldn't do anything about it at that time. So that same feeling keeps coming back again because it's our body's way, or our evolutionary tool that we have inside of us. As a complex organism that is able to heal itself, it's a way of showing its head up and saying, you know what, you've got something to do. You've got to heal this. Now, with the Kundalini awakening, it is not going to rise without you literally going through this. When you go through this and you're at that point now, you're either going to be repelling or you're going to be attracting. Whatever it is that is coming to you, it's coming to you for a reason. Now, there'll be some people that you're attracting into your life that are actually there because they want a bit of what you've got. Now, but they won't know that that's why they're there. So if it's somebody of the opposite sex, or somebody who would generally be romantically inclined towards interpreting that kind of a feeling, then you'll find that people are attracted towards you and they're saying to you that I think I've fallen in love with you, I want to be with you. And it is not that. It is not that they've fallen in love with you, but it's what you're vibrating. It's what you're emitting. It's the frequency that you're emitting. It's that kind of feeling, how you are making certain people feel around you. And those are the kind of people who are going to want to be. Yeah, they're going to want to be at that point. They want to feel all of this, but they translate it into meaning that they are in love or they are feeling whatever it is, because we identify that, that attraction towards somebody has to be, it has to mean something, right? Then there are those that you're really going to repel. Now, generally, these are the kind of people that unconsciously or unbeknownst to them want to be where you are or what you're emitting, or want to know what it is and they want to be in control of it, but because they can't identify, they can't understand what is it about you, and they can't even understand what it is that is so irritating about you to them. And they will translate this as something being wrong with you, or you being the one with something, so there'll be stories that are made up about you because they're not understanding you, they can't get you, they can't feel you, they're not on the same frequency. So those that you're going to repel and those that you're also going to attract, generally they will not be at the same frequency. Yes, those that you do attract can either be wanting to be on that point or they are already there, but they will not be a dependence on you. So it won't be that, I just have to have this person or I just have to be around them. It won't be the sort of attraction that leads to despair and leads to a sort of feeling that I can't be without them. Yes, sometimes it may feel like that, but you're able to, when you're at that same vibration, you're able to sort of see that person as they are, and you see yourself in that other person, and it remains very, very concomitant. It does not have to overlap. There's no sort of power struggle in this sort of a relationship. Those that you attract and those that you repel either will want to be where you are, will not want to be where you are, will not understand it, but they are at a different frequency. If they are translating it into something that has to be owned or disowned, something that has to amount to something that has some attachment to it, something that you're either going to cling to it or you're going to label it or you're going to judge it. This drama around relationships will pretty much continue as long as your Kundalini is still resting at that point. And remember, wherever it is, wherever it then rises to, when it amplifies the power of wherever it is, it's going to bring up a different level of whatever it is at a relationship. It could then become a deeper thing like ancestral karma. It could go deeper and behind the scenes. So you will not so much be at surface level depending on what chakra the Kundalini is at. So folks, relationships will be changing all of the time during a Kundalini awakening. With your awareness, as it keeps expanding and you sort of know where you are, and you still get triggered, you can ask yourself and you can actually analyze it and say, and the biggest step that you can take is to actually recognize that you have been triggered. A lot of us sleepwalk into these relationships and we are so quick to judge the other person. But if there is a problem and it's making you feel a particular way, it is your feeling, your responsibility, to shift it and to shift your attention onto something else if you want to change that. So as soon as you're triggered, you recognize it and you interrupt the reaction with something else, right? Or with nothing, but the force is enough to stop that triggering so that you're now indifferent and pretty neutral. Easier said than done. This can take a lot of practice. Remember, folks, it is quite okay for you to feel hard done by those that have loved you the most without you feeling guilty for wanting to be away from them. Yeah, some of you may have had overcritical mothers. Now, one thing you might have noticed in your life is when you get bad reviews or something that you consider as something negative, what are you going to do? You're more likely to pay attention to that than you are to anything positive about you. Yeah. So if you are somebody who has had to walk and tread through eggshells throughout their childhood, you've been seeking absolute approval all the time from an overcritical mother or an absent father, hoping that he will turn up, right? And then hoping that he'll turn up when you get married to somebody and you think, well, maybe the same thing, you'll get married to a person who may not be emotionally available. So they are now replicating what you have been through. And this is going to continue until we become responsible for our own experience of even relationships. And remembering that, yes, we can be alone, but out of choice, not in defiance of all of this. There's a difference. You can choose to be alone and you can choose to want to live your life like that. Yeah. Not as a way of avoiding it all, not as a way of you avoiding life or avoiding conflict, because then you've not transmuted, you've not gone through it. Yeah. So whilst you may feel independent, you may feel empowered by your aloneness or by you being quite, on your own without these toxic relationships around you. I mean, the true test lay in whether you're able to be that with all of that around you. Sending you so much love and see you soon.